The MLB trade deadline was absolutely crazy. Insane what happened yesterday, insane what happened the day before. I've had to record this video 3 different times. You're going to see me jump in again later in the video for what was supposed to be a video that goes out yesterday about the deals that happened on the 30th, the day before. Now I'm back in Jersey. We're talking about the deadline. I'm going to go over basically every single trade right now. We're going to drop my MLB trade deadline grades this weekend on Sunday, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel for that. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it and you enjoyed the crazy chaos that was the MLB trade deadline. And let me know in the comment section below which team you think had the best deadline. Maybe I'll even give you a shout out in my grades video. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, SeatGeek. It's MLB trade deadline season. Your team is getting new players, and you need to be there in person to see their debut. So of course, you're going to go to SeatGeek and use my code GiraffeNeckMarc to get 10% off your next purchase at SeatGeek, whether you're a first-time buyer or not. Literally, like, who else has this code? And maybe you don't need to see their debut. There's obviously still so many more baseball games that you can go to. Football and basketball season's coming up. Maybe you're a soccer fan, even concerts and festivals. SeatGeek has tickets to so many different events. It's an absolute no-brainer to use. Plus, what I love about SeatGeek is their SeatGeek score. That's where they rate their tickets on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 or a green dot means it's a good deal. You should buy those tickets. If you see a SeatGeek score closer to 1 with a red or orange circle, that means it's not as good of a deal. You don't need to buy those. So again, just in case you missed it, here's what I got for you. Use my code GiraffeNeckMarc for 10% off your next purchase at SeatGeek, whether you're a first-time buyer or not. 10% off your tickets. Again, it does not need to be a first-time purchase, and that's all by using my code GiraffeNeckMarc on SeatGeek. So click the link in the description, download the app, make sure you put in my code, and save your money on some tickets to your next event. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. So I'm going to talk about Mason Miller. I'm going to talk about all those guys in a second. Right now, when you see me in this setup, I'm going to be talking about all the deals that happened on July 31st. Let's start off with the Astros getting Carlos Correa back. That's insane. The Twins got rid of everybody. I think currently at the time of recording, they have 17 players on their active roster, which means there are 9 guys that are going to be added on Friday to that team. Correa goes back to Houston, waives his no-trade clause. The Twins end up paying about $30 million of that contract. Absolutely love this move. I always think it's really cool when you see a player go back to where it all started. And for Carlos Correa, who's having a bad season, I think we can all agree it's not been a good year. Maybe this is what turns it around from him, gets the spark plug going once again, and gets him back in some competitive baseball, because his tenure with the Twins has not been particularly great. And for the Houston Astros, who need help at third base, Isaac Paredes is going to be out for a very long time, seems like the rest of the year. Getting Correa to play third base automatically makes them better. And of course, the Twins get back Matt Mikulski, who's a left-handed pitching prospect from the Astros. The Yankees arguably had one of the best trade deadlines in all of Major League Baseball. One of the big moves that they made was acquiring Dave Bednar from the Pittsburgh Pirates for a whole lot of nothing. I can't believe how little the Pirates get back in all their trades, especially from the Yankees. Year after year after year, the Yankees get good players from Pittsburgh, and the Pirates get absolutely nothing to show for it. I'm super sorry to Pirates fans. This was a miserable deadline. Dave Bednar was a Pittsburgh guy. He's been phenomenal this year after being sent down earlier in the season for what was pitch tipping. They fixed that issue, comes back up, and Dave Bednar has been one of the best closers in baseball this season. He goes into this Yankees bullpen that got completely revamped this deadline, and again, they gave up nothing. Rafael Flores is like a 24-year-old catcher who had been dominating Double-A. Who cares? Edglin Perez and Brian Sanchez are not anything that the Yankees are ever going to miss. I can't believe the Pirates trade for 2 catching prospects in one trade. I can't believe these were the prospects they went after. Apparently, Ben Cherington said they had better prospects in the Yankee system they could have gone after, but they were not as interested in them as they were Rafael Flores, Edglin Perez, and Brian Sanchez. To me, it doesn't make any sense, and that was a phenomenal move by the Yankees, whose bullpen is really, really good now. The Texas Rangers got Merrill Kelly in exchange for Cole Drake, David Hageman, and Mitch Bratt, one of the few trades for starting pitching at the deadline. It was a rare deadline. Not many starting pitchers were moved, definitely none of the big names. Merrill Kelly, being probably the best starting pitcher moved this deadline, is kind of crazy. Now, Kelly is good. He's exactly what the Rangers need. A guy who's going to be steady, consistent, give you 5, 6, maybe even 7 innings every single start, every 5 days. He has the playoff experience. The Rangers know that well. They faced him in the World Series just a few years ago. Merrill Kelly was absolute nails against the Phillies in the NLCS, and he has a low 3 ERA. Once again, Merrill Kelly is just a very good ball player. And for the Rangers, while Mitch Bratt's had a really nice season in Double-A, none of the prospects that you gave up are super big impact guys that were going to help you reach, again, your ultimate goal of trying to win the World Series this year. This was one of the better trades back for the Diamondbacks in terms of the pitching prospects they got. But overall, it's crazy how weird their deadline was, too. The Blue Jays went out and got Shane Bieber from the Cleveland Guardians, and the Guardians got one of the best prospects traded on the deadline, of course, but they got Cal Steven back from the Blue Jays, who has been one of the highest, quickest, most helium-rising prospects in minor league baseball this year. A guy who many consider to be inside the top 100, has an awesome fastball with really good shape. Someone that the Guardians, it fits their archetype, very much so. Good pitching projections, a good fastball. That's someone that they're going to use for years and years to come. And for the Blue Jays, you get Shane Bieber, who's been rehabbing. When he's healthy, is a very, very good pitcher. And in that rotation, it helps to have more quality arms. Shane Bieber is a guy who could be an impact player for the Blue Jays down the stretch whenever he gets healthy off the IL. I really did like that trade. The Blue Jays didn't make a lot of them, but Shane Bieber felt like that was a good acquisition for them on the starting rotation side. Padres, of course, traded every single prospect that they have, which is kind of crazy to say because they also don't really have many prospects, and now they definitely don't really have any. They went out and got Ryan O'Hearn along with Ramon Laureano for the Orioles in exchange for 6 prospects. Yes, you're reading that correctly. The Orioles got 6 prospects for those guys, and this is a great move for the Padres. They had so many holes in that roster. Ryan O'Hearn at DH is phenomenal. While Gavin Sheets has had a nice year, Ryan O'Hearn is an all-star this season. He's got legit power. He's an impact bat. This is a guy who changes the offensive outlook on his own. And then adding Ramon Laureano to this outfield when you've been playing guys like Brandon Lockridge and just kind of creative player names out in the outfield at times this year. I mean, Jose Iglesias has even played left field. You had Jason Hayward at one point. The names that they throw out there in left field are crazy. Ramon Laureano can now slot in left field. He's having a really good season, has a cannon of an arm. The bat looks really good this year out in Baltimore. This was an awesome, awesome trade, along with grabbing Mason Miller, JP Sears, Freddie Fermin, and also Will Wagner sneakily from the Blue Jays for absolutely nothing. It was a great deadline for the Padres. Yes, they gave up a ton in Leo DeVries, but at the end of the day, this team got better, and they're making a serious push for the World Series, and they didn't trade Dylan Cease. It's a very good baseball team. Just swept the Mets. They look even better than they were during that series. The Red Sox got Dustin May in exchange for James Tibbs and Zach Earhart, which was bizarre. Dustin May's looked horrible this year, and I don't really know what kind of pitcher he truly is going to be, especially because he hasn't thrown many innings, so I don't know what the Red Sox were doing there, especially because James Tibbs was supposed to be one of the marquee pieces back from the Giants in the Rafael Devers trade, and then you shipped him right back out, and you sent him to the Dodgers. I can't wrap my head around what Craig Breslow is trying to do. I think that the Red Sox had a horrendous trade deadline, which I hate to say because I want the Red Sox to do well. That's a team I thought could win the division, and they still might. Dustin May and Steven Matz are acquisitions that theoretically should make this team better, but I don't understand why they didn't make more of a push, and I don't really understand the prospects that they sent out. Sneaky under the radar big trade, the Rays acquired Griffin Jax from the Twins in exchange for Taj Bradley. I love the fit for both of these guys. Griffin Jax is an absolute demon in the bullpen. His stuff is electric. He's one of the rare players out of the Air Force too, so just a cool, fun story with him. He's great. The Rays can always use more relievers that are controllable arms with disgusting stuff, and while they are a little bit more on the outside looking in for the postseason this year, Griffin Jax has control, and he's a guy who right now is going to help them win more games towards the end of the game. And then for the Twins, Taj Bradley, it just wasn't working out in Tampa. Probably time for a change of scenery. The Twins have been incredible at starting pitching development, especially for guys with fastballs. Joe Ryan has one of the best fastballs in the game. Pablo Lopez is awesome. They made Chris Paddock into a capable starting pitcher this season. Taj Bradley feels like he is going to really start to hit that ceiling that we once saw as a prospect out in Minnesota because the talent is always there. He's just never really been able to be consistent or put up the production numbers that you'd like to see. The Yankees, last second, got Camilo Doval. That's insane. Another guy who's a demon out in the bullpen, throws 100+ miles an hour, wipe out breaking balls. Camilo Doval, if you get the right version of him, is one of the better relievers in all of Major League Baseball when he's going right. The stuff is absolutely electric, and they gave up 4 prospects, and those 4 prospects, they might be good, but for the Yankees, they're towards the bottom of their list. Not guys that are going to make an impact. You make that trade every single time. Giants got so many people in this trade deadline, in the few trades that they ended up making. I think the Giants had a completely fine trade deadline. We'll see how these guys end up panning out. I do like how much value and how much just sheer bulk they got back for the players they traded, but I would have thought that Camilo Doval would have demanded a little bit more on the market, especially because like Bednar, like Jake Bird, who the Yankees got from the Rockies for basically nothing. I know Rock Reggio is a prospect that we like, but still, Jake Bird, Camilo Doval, Dave Bednar are all controllable relievers who have really, really good stuff and are very productive. The Phillies got Harrison Bader. They needed a center fielder. Harrison Bader has made improvements to his swing with the bat speed. He is a different hitter this year. I don't think he's elite by any means at the plate, but I think he is better than what we've seen in the years past, and defensively, He's absolutely elite. He's disgusting. He's really good out in center field, and the Phillies needed that so bad because similarly to the Mets, when the Mets got Cedric Mullins, which we'll talk about here in a second, the other option was like Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh, which really hasn't been working out. So Harrison Bader's an automatic upgrade, feels really good fit with that team, and the prospect that the Twins got back, pretty solid. Briefly mentioned it, the Mets got Cedric Mullins in exchange for Anthony Nunez, Raimon Gomez, and Chandler Marsh. A lot of Mets fans didn't like this trade because in the Mets community, I feel like we know the prospects a little bit more. We're a little hyper-focused on them because we've never really had a farm system in the past. Raimon Gomez throws 105 miles an hour. That's pretty sick. Anthony Nunez has been a breakout reliever type player in the Mets minor league system this season, and Chandler Marsh was an undrafted free agent that has had success so far at high A in Brooklyn. These are three guys that, relatively speaking, nobody wanted when the Mets first brought them into their organization. They were able to develop them up and then turn them into Cedric Mullins, which is a great move because just like I said with the Phillies, they were getting little to no production or value out of the center field position this year outside of defense, and Mullins gives you good defense with a much better bat than Tyrone Taylor. I love the moves that the Mets made at the deadline, and Cedric Mullins was a great pickup. And then other notable deals that I'll briefly talk about. The Yankees got Jose Caballero for Everson Pereira. That's a classic Rays trade. Go get a guy who has more control, give up the guy who doesn't have as much control, even though he's a better player at this exact moment. Pereira at one point was a highly touted prospect in the Yankee system, never really panned out as of right now. Caballero gives the Yankees a lot of flexibility, is a utility player who can run the bases, bring some athleticism to this roster. It's a good pickup. I really actually like this move a lot for the Yankees. Charlie Morton ended up going to the Tigers. Don't even get me started on the Tigers deadline. We'll talk about that more in depth on the grades video this weekend. Royals got Mike Yastrzemski, which I guess, sure, whatever. Drew Gilbert, I guess, is going to make his debut maybe this weekend against the Mets. Padres acquired Nestor Cortez, another left-handed arm to add to this team, better than the number 5 options that they've been rolling with, especially because they traded Stephen Kolek and Ryan Burgett out to the Royals in exchange for Freddie Fermin. I low-key love that trade for the Royals. I think that was an amazing, amazing trade. So much value there. Adrian Hauser goes to the Rays in exchange for Curtis Mead, Duncan Davitt, and Benjamin Peoples. Curtis Mead was a guy who was a top 100 prospect for years. That's a fun move for the White Sox, who seem to be getting more and more creative and smarter every day with Chris Getz as their GM. And for the Rays, Adrian Hauser. He's a cheap, rentable starting pitcher that's going to give you some length. Like, it's just a good move. The Astros got Jesus Sanchez. I thought that was an awesome move. The Marlins got Ryan Gusto, who is going to be a controllable starting pitcher. Jesus Sanchez, legit impact bat. Huge move for the Astros. I love what they did this trade deadline. Left-handed bat like that, with the power, with the exit velos, could be dangerous down the line for the Astros. Cubs got Willie Castro, which was a good move for a bunch of prospects. Utility guy, but still the Cubs had a very lackluster trade deadline. Castro's an improvement, but I guess you're going to play him at third base over Matt Shaw every day, or he's going to hop around, move positions. Just felt like that wasn't the biggest need that the Cubs had. Shelby Miller and Jordan Montgomery go to the Brewers in exchange for a player to be named later in cash. Brock Stewart gets traded to the Dodgers from the Twins in exchange for James Outman. Stewart's a good reliever, solid, really not much to say there. James Outman, that's a guy who just needed a change of scenery. He's going to be able to play every single day in Minnesota. Go play the outfield for them. He's a great athlete. We've seen him hit before. Can he do it again? Kyle Finnegan to the Tigers for a couple prospects, whatever. Paul Sewald to the Tigers, definitely don't care about that. Taylor Rogers ended up going to the Cubs. That's a good left-handed reliever pickup for them. At least they addressed that along with getting Andrew Kittredge, which we'll talk about later. Danny Coulomb and Phil Maton help bolster that bullpen out in Texas. Neither of those names are sexy, but they get the job done, and they are very much quality relievers. Dodgers brought in Alex Call, which is going to be the most pesky fourth outfielder I don't want to face in the postseason. He doesn't strike out, puts the ball in play. Perfect for a playoff run. Cody Hoyer to the Tigers. Bailey Falter to the Royals. Low-key love that. Bailey Falter's been really good this year, and getting him in Kansas City, I love that move, especially from a fantasy baseball perspective. If you are a Bailey Falter guy, he's going to have even more value right now in Kansas City. Oswald Peraza goes to the Angels because, of course, the Angels are technically buying, and they also got Chafin and Luis Garcia. Miguel Andujar to the Reds. Mike Soroka to the Cubs. I think I talk about that a little bit later in this video. Blaze Jordan goes to the Cardinals, which was a great pickup for Steven Matz. All right, let me cut to the rest of this video and when I was recording it back in my apartment. Mason Miller just got traded to the Padres for Leo Dallas DeVries. What? Oh my God, are you kidding me? That trade is absolutely insane. I'm getting rid of the original intro I have. We'll talk about all the other trades in a few minutes. We need to focus on what is one of the biggest trades that we've seen in a very long time. Leo Dallas DeVries is legitimately the best prospect ever traded at the deadline in terms of how they're viewed and how highly touted they are right now. There hasn't been a prospect like this moved at the deadline in a very long time. And that being said, and then on Mason Miller's side, like, that guy has control. The talent is through the roof. This is an insane trade. How does AJ Preller do it every single trade deadline? He does something that literally makes your jaw drop. And the Padres did that. Mason Miller, JP Sears going from the A's to the Padres in exchange for Leo Dallas DeVries. And then do we have the names of the other prospects just yet? I'm trying to see. It doesn't seem like we have the other names yet. I think there's 3 pitching prospects. Wow, this is absolutely insane. How much bullpen help do the Padres need? Seriously, this is probably a multi-year play too, where Mason Miller can be the closer right now. Maybe you try and stretch him out again at some point and make him into a starting pitcher, because I do think that's ultimately where you can get the most value out of him, especially if you're trading Leo Dallas DeVries, who's the number 3 prospect, maybe even the best prospect in all of minor league baseball, according to some people. Oh, I need to take a deep breath. This is crazy. What is going on with the deadline? Man. Wow. We rarely see prospects like this get moved at the deadline. Baseball America has him as the number 5 highest ranked prospect in Major League Baseball right now. He's really good. He's like 18 years old, and he has been pretty good at every single level. He's already up to AA. Leo Dallas DeVries, if you've watched any of my prospect videos, he's the truth. That's an awesome pickup for the A's. And truthfully, when you value what this A's team looks like for the future, having Mason Miller as the closer in that ballpark is not necessarily the most important thing. Leo Dallas DeVries could be a franchise-altering player for the Athletics in just a few seasons. That's unbelievable. And the Padres get Mason Miller. Woo! It's getting crazy. The hot stove is hot. What a move! First one being Eugenio Suarez getting traded to the Seattle Mariners from the Arizona Diamondbacks. We saw this trade come in late last night on the East Coast, a little bit of a midnight trade, which you love to see, and that's how you know the trade deadline's really cooking, when we get these late night deals. I absolutely love to see it. But the Mariners acquire Eugenio Suarez in exchange for Tyler Locklear, Hunter Cranton, and Juan Burgos. Quickly, from the Diamondbacks' perspective, I'll be honest, I don't love the haul that they got back. Yes, Eugenio Suarez is a rental, 30-plus-year-old power bat. They don't typically get a lot on the open market, but from what we had heard, it felt like the Diamondbacks were going to get a lot more for Eugenio Suarez, or at least a more prominent prospect than Tyler Locklear, who's like a 24, 25-year-old corner infield prospect right now, who's had some middling success. I honestly don't particularly love what they got back. Again, Locklear is a guy who I think is a little bit tough to project at the major league level in the small sample that we've seen. It didn't look great. This year, he apparently made an adjustment with his hands. He's hitting the ball better, and he's having the best season that he's really ever had in AAA. But if you're a AAA player at 25, I do have doubts about you. Hunter Cranton and Juan Burgos do project more as relief pitchers, Burgos especially. These are guys that are not highly touted prospects by any means, but could be very capable major league arms at some point in their baseball career. The more surprising thing for me is that the Yankees went McMahon without considering that this was going to be the price for Eugenio Suarez. It's more surprising to me that the Tigers weren't more interested, or the Phillies, or the Reds. I know they went after Brian Hayes, but it just felt like this was a super doable trade for a lot of teams, and I'm surprised that this is what the haul back was for Suarez. Now, if you're a Mariners fan, this is incredible. This is amazing. This is exactly what you need. Right now, there's no team having a better trade deadline than the Seattle Mariners. They had 2 big holes in their lineup: first base, third base, and you bring in both Arizona Diamondbacks players with Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez, guys who are great offensively, have some pop in that bat. Suarez significantly more than Josh Naylor, because Suarez is a guy who's going to hit 40-plus home runs this year. Naylor hasn't shown the power numbers just yet, but they both do things really well. Suarez with that elite power, and he plays good third base, so that's a huge boost to this Mariners team, who's been rocking guys like Miles Mastrobuoni and Dylan Moore and, what's his name, Ben Williamson. Like, that's just not guys you want playing every single day. Suarez is a perennial power threat, and for a Mariners team that has been desperately in need of offense every single season for what feels like the last 10 years, I love to see that they went out and got Eugenio Suarez for a deal that is a no-brainer for them to make. This American League is so wide open. The Blue Jays have one of the best records in baseball. They're playing really good, but right now, if you're the Mariners, with that pitching, with that bullpen, you've now added 2 legitimate bats to this lineup. The Mariners are probably the scariest team in the American League at the time of this recording. That offense, plus the defense, plus the pitching, I can't find a more complete team right now in the American League than the Seattle Mariners. This is the year they're going for it, and I really love to see Jerry Dipoto pushing the chips in. In no particular order, Jhoan Duran got traded to the Philadelphia Phillies from the Minnesota Twins in exchange for Mick Abel and Eduardo Tait. That's a huge trade for a couple different reasons. One, the Phillies' back end of the bullpen, specifically the closer role, has been an absolute mess this year. Jose Alvarado got popped for PEDs earlier in the season, so he hasn't been able to pitch much at all, and when they get to the postseason, he will not be eligible to be on the roster. They've been going with Jordan Romano at times, who's been terrible. They've tried Matt Strahm, who's a good reliever, but in the closer role, it's not necessarily the place where you want him. They lost Jeff Hoffman to the Blue Jays, so the ninth inning role, closing down games, has been a bit of a question mark for the Phillies this season. If there's anything wrong with this team, it's their bullpen. Duran is simply one of the best relievers in the entire game. He's got an absolute demon sinker. It's like 102 miles an hour. He's got the splinter. He's got disgusting breaking balls. Everything that you'd want out of a big game closer, out of a guy getting the outs against the hardest hitters in the lineup every single time you have a lead. Duran is that guy, and the Phillies have control. He is controllable for years after this season. He is not a free agent, which is why the price tag was a little bit more expensive than some of the other players that we're going to talk about. Because Eduardo Tait is one of the most exciting young catching prospects in all of Major League Baseball. Similarly to that of the hype of Francisco Alvarez that we once saw with Mets prospects, he's that good of a hitter. The guy absolutely mashes. He's young. He's moldable. He's got really, really good talent and raw tools right now. And for a Phillies team, it doesn't make sense to hold on to him when you're trying to win a World Series right now. And this guy is still a few years away from even being close to the majors. But you love the tools and you love the ability that you've seen from Eduardo Tait already. Now with Mick Abel, that's a fantastic pull for the Twins. He's come up for the Phillies this year already, pitched pretty well to some decent success. Of course, he's not a finished product by any means, but this is a former first-round pick. He's been moved around quite a bit, but people like the makeup and they like the stuff that they've seen from Mick Abel. He's got like 4 or 5 different pitches at the major league level already. The Twins are definitely in a little bit of a rebuilding/retooling mode, and when you can move on from a closer, which is super valuable, but they got a ton of value back. You always make that deal. And Mick Abel, who is a controllable young pitcher who has the ability to be a mid to frontline starter, it's an absolute no-brainer if you're Minnesota. So I think this is a great trade from both sides. The Phillies get an absolute dog in Duran, one of the most electric walkouts in all of Major League Baseball, been super underrated and slept on. And the Twins get a lot of value back for him because he's a reliever on a team that's just not doing anything, so it doesn't matter if you're winning extra games to just not make the playoffs. Another big reliever that was on the move yesterday, Ryan Helsley getting traded from the Cardinals to my New York Mets. Absolutely insane. I was at an event with a bunch of other social media people in New York City, and there was some panel going on, and honestly, wasn't paying attention. I got the notification. I started tweeting on my phone. I started going crazy. I was getting phone calls. It was awesome. The Mets have needed so much bullpen help, and yesterday, David Stearns did address that. We'll talk about Tyler Rogers in a second. Ryan Helsley is one of the 10, 15 best relievers in Major League Baseball. I think he's a top 10 guy, but I'll even give you a top 15 if that's where you want to go and call me Mets biased. He's closed out big games. He has a ridiculously good fastball at over 100 miles an hour. The slider is wipeout against right-handed batters, and he's pretty platoon neutral against the left-handed hitters. And to be honest, while the Mets, I think, gave up some good prospects, these are not guys that are going to have an effect on this Mets roster for the next couple seasons. And for the Mets who feel like they are in a win-now mode, you've heard some of the reports saying that the Mets expect this 2-year window to be one of the most impactful and best chances for them to actually win a World Series as of right now, because of course the impending lockout that's coming. I absolutely love this trade. Ryan Helsley being the 8th inning guy leading to Edwin Diaz. Maybe he can even close games when Diaz has been used in multiple nights in a row. You can now use Edwin Diaz in the 8th inning if you have the best hitters of a team's lineup coming up and let Helsley close out the game. It is an amazing move for the Mets. This bullpen's been an issue, and they seemingly fixed it in the last week and pretty much overnight yesterday. Now, from the Cardinals' perspective, Jesus Baez is a prospect that I loved in the Mets system. Crazy good exit velos. He's coming back from a torn meniscus, so that's why some of the numbers haven't been as strong, but he's a really good player. This is someone who could be an impact bat from the Cardinals at some point in the major leagues in the next few years. The bat is legitimately awesome. And then Nate Dome and Frank Ellisalt are pitching prospects that were a little bit further down on the Mets pipeline rankings, but people inside the Mets organization love these guys as pitchers. They have a lot of good pitches. They throw pretty hard, especially Nate Dome has a really nice fastball with really good shape. They've been really successful in the Mets minor league system. The Mets are able to trade these guys because the pitching lab has been cooking, and they trust their ability to draft pitchers, develop those pitchers, and then trade them off at their peak value. And for a guy like Ryan Helsley, this is free from the Mets side, but also the Cardinals did get some pretty good value. 2 guys who I think will be major leaguers for sure, and Frank Ellisalt, who is going on the right path. We still need to see a little bit more. We saw a 3-team trade where the Reds acquired Zach Littell, the Rays got Hunter Fiducia, Brian Van Bell, and the Dodgers acquired Adam Serwinowski, Paul Gervais, and Ben Rortvedt. For the Reds, Zach Littell, that is just getting another capable starting pitcher in a rotation that is questionable at times. They have a ton of top-end talent. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott's been great. Chase Burns has some of the best stuff in baseball. But Nick Martinez has been a little bit shaky shaky. Zach Littell can be a guy who can give you consistent innings every 5 days as they make this playoff push. And at the absolute worst, Littell has relief experience. He can go to the bullpen, give you multiple innings out of there if you need it, maybe in a playoff series. And to be honest, I really don't think the Reds gave up very much to get Zach Littell. From the Rays' perspective, Hunter Fiducia and Brian Van Bell are the exact kind of players that they're always looking at. Guys who are basically major league ready players that they'll have on the major league roster for cheap, hopefully be able to flip again at some point in their career. And then the Dodgers. Adam Serwinowski has been pitching really well in the minors. He throws super weird from the left-hand side. Paul Gervais is the really interesting guy. He's actually a former Mets prospect. He's like 6'10", I think. He throws in the upper 90s. He's touched 100 a couple times with some sink. He's been at the major league level before. I think the Dodgers are going to turn this guy into an absolute demon. The extension's crazy. The stuff looks really good. I think he just needs a shot. Someone that I wish the Mets never really gave up on or moved, but I understood at the time why they needed to do it. Gervais has legit stuff. I would not be shocked if he becomes one of these new Dodger bullpen demons because he's major league ready. But this is really a great trade for the Reds and kind of a decent trade for the Dodgers too. Like getting a good pitching prospect plus a demon bullpen arm and then a backup catcher in Ben Rortvedt. Why not? Back to my New York Mets, of course, it always comes back to the Mets. They acquired Tyler Rogers from the San Francisco Giants in a bit of a shocking trade. Originally, when I saw what the Mets gave up, I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly pleased. Mets got Tyler Rogers, who's on an expiring contract, a free agent at the end of the year, in exchange for Drew Gilbert, Blade Tidwell, and Jose Butto. I love Tyler Rogers. Great. I'm super happy. He's our 7th inning guy. He's our 8th inning guy. Wherever he wants to go, he is a reliever who gives up a ton of soft contact. Nobody barrels this guy up. He throws from a funky arm delivery. He's one of the most unique, if not the most unique pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. And I think in a Mets bullpen that does have a lot of power arms, it's nice to be able to get that change of pace and give you a different look. Imagine going from Tyler Rogers to Edwin Diaz, or from Ryan Helsley to Tyler Rogers to Edwin Diaz. Like, that's kind of a chaos, uncomfortable 3 innings right there. Now, the Mets gave up Jose Butto, who I think can be a very good reliever for the Giants. He's going to be on that team right now. He's going to make his debut this weekend against the Mets back at Citi Field, which is so bizarre. I love Jose Butto. He's a guy that I've been a big fan of ever since I found out about him in the Mets system a few years ago. I feel really bad for him. He's been with the organization since 19. Obviously, it's sad when you get traded from your team, but this is going to be the best for him. He's either going to be a very solid middle relief guy for the rest of his career, or maybe the Giants try to stretch him out like he has in the past and see if he can be a starting pitcher once again. He's got a really good changeup, a pretty good fastball. That slider's inconsistent. I wish the best for Jose Butto. Now with Blade Tidwell and Drew Gilbert, these are 2 guys that were not David Stearns prospects. I think that's a big reason why they were moved. Drew Gilbert still hasn't made his major league debut. He's going to turn 25 in September. I think that tells you a lot about how the Mets view Drew Gilbert inside their own organization. Tyrone Taylor's been playing every day in center field. They've given Jeff McNeil a chance to play in center field. They haven't given Drew Gilbert one. I think Drew Gilbert's a very good player, someone that I loved coming out of the draft. He's an absolute dog, all the intangibles. I don't know if he can play center field moving forward. I think he's more of a corner guy, but he's a very good ball player. Like, I think the Giants actually did really well in this trade. I want that to be very well known. And of course, he has a ton of control, and same thing with Blade Tidwell. We saw more of him because he's made appearances at the major league level. They haven't been great. The command is not particularly strong, but he throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He has a good sweeper. Like, Blade Tidwell, with the right developmental plan, with the right team behind him, it didn't feel like it was going to work with the Mets, especially with a lot of the young pitching prospects that they have that they value more. These were guys that were a little bit redundant in the Mets system. Upon second review, I understand now why the Mets made this trade. From the Giants' perspective, this is an immense amount of value back for Tyler Rogers, and I do think that this was a very successful and also really good value trade from both sides. Mets gave up guys who weren't really going to do much for this team and got an impact reliever, and the Giants got a bunch of major league talent. Reds were involved in another trade yesterday as well. I don't know how many more I have, but man, yesterday was such chaos going through this. They got Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Kind of crazy. They ended up trading Sammy Stafora, who is actually a fan of the channel. DMs me on Instagram all the time. Shout out Sammy, 2nd-round pick from the Reds a couple years ago back in 2023, a local kid from New York. And they also got Taylor Rogers, which is also funny because the Rogers brothers, the twins, got traded on the same day. That's kind of bizarre. You don't really see anything like that ever in sports. I don't know if I believe in Ke'Bryan Hayes. I think I feel better about him in Cincinnati because it's such a hitter-friendly ballpark than I do in Pittsburgh. And he might be a clear change of scenery guy. Get him away from the Pirates. Maybe you unlock that former top prospect status. See the potential in Ke'Bryan Hayes because defensively, he's elite. There's no doubt his glove is absolutely disgusting, but he can't hit. He hasn't hit in the last 2 seasons. It's been a while since we've seen the Ke'Bryan Hayes that we were so excited about when he was a younger player in Pittsburgh. For the grand scheme of baseball, I hope the Reds are able to get it out of him because he is a talented guy. As a Mets fan who might have to compete with the Reds, that makes me scared, but I think he's a relatively fine pickup for the Reds. I was interested to see that they gave up Sammy Stafora, who is a pretty good prospect in their system, ranked number 9 for them, and a guy who was a second-round pick just a few years ago. And then Taylor Rogers went over to the Pirates, who I assume they're also going to flip today on the trade deadline because there's no reason for him. That was a money thing to keep the money equal for the rest of the season. You should be trading him as well because there's no reason to keep a good left-handed reliever when you could get any sort of prospects for him. Cubs acquired Michael Soroka in exchange for Christian Franklin and Ronnie Cruz from the Washington Nationals. I like Mike Soroka. I think he's best suited as a relief pitcher. He can get that fastball up to the upper 90s, has a really good slider. He can use that sinker as like a power sinker. I think he's going to be a nice arm for the Cubs, whether they use him as a starter or a stretch arm out in the bullpen. I think either way, he's a great pickup. And the prospects that they gave up, nothing special. A couple of players that you hope at some point get to the major league level if you're the Washington Nationals and can be kind of just fill-in guys. And is there any other trades? I mean, Paul Sewald got traded. Ooh, Steven Matz got traded to the Red Sox for Blaze Jordan. Fantastic job by the Cardinals getting a really, really good hitter in Blaze Jordan for the Red Sox. Steven Matz, like, I guess. Cubs got Andrew Kittredge. They didn't really give up anything. That's another good bullpen arm. The Astros got Ramon Urias from the Orioles in exchange for Twine Rollin Palmer, which is one of the craziest names I've ever heard. Ramon Urias in that ballpark, pulling the baseball down the left field line with great defense. Feels like a really good move by the Astros. They just continue to be awesome. The Mariners got Caleb Ferguson to help with left-handed relief options out of their bullpen in exchange for Jeter Martinez, who's got a very lively arm. Good pickup by the Pirates once again. They just love these big arms all of a sudden. Yankees got Austin Slater. I mean, like, sure, he mashes lefties. I guess you saw Bob Nightingale's tweet where he's like, if the Yankees play the Dodgers, he owns Clayton Kershaw. Okay, cool, whatever. Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia go to the Angels from the Nationals in exchange for Jake Eder, who's going to just be a major league pitcher on this Nationals team for years and years to come. I don't know if he has anything. I mean, watching him, it doesn't look like his stuff's great, but hey, good pickup for the Angels, I guess, who refuse to ever sell. It's the most confusing team ever. The Braves got Tyler Kinley from the Rockies. Cool. I don't know what to do with that. The Tigers then got Rafael Montero from the Braves. Cool. I don't know what to do with that. These guys are kind of nothing. I think that's pretty much it, though, for the trades. I mean, there's been the other ones that have been going on throughout the week, but in terms of yesterday, last 24 hours, that's pretty much it. And outro-wise, the trade deadline was crazy. I want to know what you guys think about it down in the comment section below. Let me know what team you think had the best deadline. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this baseball content coming at you. And follow me on all my social media. GiraffeNeckMarc links are in the description. That's where I'll wrap it up. You guys know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video, and this is my most recent upload, so click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you all on Sunday for the trade deadline grades video. Bye.